But I want to begin with noting the calendar. It's July 30th. And on August 30th, there's a pretty big college football game. Texas and Ohio State, which means we get to see for real if Arch Manning can live up to and begin to even attempt to live up to this ridiculous and, dare I say, unprecedented level of hype. Because I can't wait for the game. He is the most compelling story in college football this year. A Manning is playing quarterback as the Heisman Trophy favorite for the team that is the second favorite to win the national championship. I am not at all surprised that there is a lot of hype around Arch Manning. But the hype around Arch Manning, to me, for now, should be college football hype, not NFL hype. And if I'm saying that, I'm more of an NFL guy than a college guy. So I just think the place that we're in here is Jimmy Clausen-esque. And I'll explain what I mean. In basketball, all the time, before you've played a minute of college ball, we are talking about you in the NBA. Cooper Flagg, Zion Williamson, Victor Wembanyama, whatever. We've seen it time and time and time again in basketball. In football, you normally have to have college production and college hype in order for us to talk about you as a pro. There aren't that many guys who came out of high school before they really played any college ball and we're like, that guy's going to be the number one pick in the draft. And Arch Manning has 95 career college pass attempts. Arch Manning was on the sideline for a long time behind Quinn Ewers. But he's a Manning. If his name was Arch Jones, which is kind of a cool name, we wouldn't be talking about him as the number one overall pick. And I loved Colin's theory. Jimmy Haslam, owner of the Browns, knows the Manning family, terrible NFL team, quarterback starvation, multiple first-round picks. Go get Saban, go get Arch Manning, put the band back together, and try to save the Cleveland Browns. So there's been a ton of speculation on this show and elsewhere about Arch Manning to Cleveland. They asked Jimmy Haslam about it, and he's not exactly fanning the flames.
I think if you know the Manning family, I would bet that, and I don't know Arch at all, okay? I bet he stays in college 2 years, so I don't even think that's worth discussing.
I don't even think it's worth discussing, he says, which, maybe he's a secret operative agent for the Manning family and he's doing their bidding. We need to see if this kid is legit. He might be. I don't know. Touchdown to interception ratio in college is great, but this is a different animal. This level of hype, this level of competition, this level of expectation, all of it is way different than anything we've ever seen him do before. Shedeur Sanders had a lot of hype because of his last name. Arch Manning is obviously going to have an extra level of hype because of his last name. But there are just not a ton of examples in college football where with this level or this amount, this lack of college production, we're already slating you to be the number one pick in the draft. Garrett Nussmeier at LSU, Drew Aller at Penn State, supposed to be a good quarterback class. There are other guys that are way more accomplished in college than Arch Manning is at this point. Kyler Murray, when he came out of high school in Texas, 42-0, talked about, man, this best high school prospect in the state of Texas. Maybe he's going to be the number one pick. And he ended up being the number one pick. But he had to transfer. He had to sit out. There were questions about his size. It wasn't a lock from day one. And then he had to go out there and ball out and win the Heisman Trophy and actually earn it. Arch is going to get that chance. But normally, when it's a guy that gets all the hype beforehand, it's tough to live up to. Jimmy Clausen obviously didn't. Trevor Lawrence ended up being the number one overall pick, certainly hasn't lived up to the hype thus far, even though the Jaguars gave him that second contract. It's just much more of a basketball thing. And while an owner saying something at a training camp press conference isn't the biggest deal in the world, when you figure Jimmy Haslam, Tennessee booster, brother, governor of Tennessee, knows Peyton, knows the Manning family, has a terrible team, would absolutely be interested in drafting a Manning on its surface. It's not nothing. And so this isn't like protect the kid. Like, he's a Manning, he's at Texas, he's going to have hype, he'll be able to handle it. It's part of the deal and it's part of the burden of carrying that last name. But I'm actually almost more interested in seeing if he's good. Like, how good is he? He looks good. His coach says he's good. His coach, by the way, when he was on with Colin, made him sound a lot like his Uncle Peyton. Here's Sark.
His work ethic is incredible. Whether it's, studying tape, studying film, studying the playbook, working at his craft, in the weight room, like that is, whether it's innate in him or it was, handed down from his uncles, whatever it was, his work ethic is really pretty incredible. And that lends itself to the teammate that he is too. And again, that's not to take away the arm talent, the deep ball, the athleticism, all that. I think all those things are a byproduct of how hard he works at his craft and how hard he works at being a great teammate.
So that obviously sounds a lot like a Manning. But let's just learn from history. This time last year, Carson Beck was the number 1 pick, and he ended up going back to school. Peyton Manning went back to school, reportedly, because he didn't want to be drafted by the Jets. And we know about Eli skipping out on the Chargers to go be a Giant. Maybe that's fair. Maybe it isn't. But there is a long way to go here. This story is way closer to the beginning than the end. And I have no idea if he'll play 1 year of college football, 2 years of college football, end up being the number 1 overall pick, live up to the last name, or ultimately fall short. It's a tremendous amount of hype. Almost impossible to live up to. Hey, you've thrown 95 passes in college, but you're expected to be in the national championship game and win the Heisman Trophy. And oh yeah, by the way, you're a Manning. Both your uncles were number 1 picks at quarterback. Almost impossible for this kid to live up to the hype, but it feels to me like we are still years away from him in the NFL. Not at all 1 season away from Arch Manning being the number 1 overall pick. It's not terribly often when you're in this business that you get to be proven right that quickly, but earlier in the week, and it's only Wednesday, so, we're in the middle of the week, I said NFL contracts now have so much money attached to them that holdouts are a thing of the past. Disgruntled players are not a thing of the past, but holdouts are like an endangered species. They're not gone. We'll see them again, but way less common. In a post-Le'Veon Bell world, I think that was like a real turning point for players. Le'Veon Bell sat out a bunch of games. It seemed to impact him when he came back, and he was never the same player since. It hurt him financially, reputationally, and with production on the field. But as the money in the NFL continues to grow and grow and grow and skyrocket, it's no reason to hold out. And I bring that up because Trey Hendrickson was so wildly disappointed in how the Bengals were handling him that he was in Florida when the team reported to camp. And then yesterday, he reported to camp. And so, will Trey Hendrickson sign? I don't know. When will he sign? I don't know. But it feels inevitable that this thing will get done. Because if you just think about it, Trey Hendrickson, he's drastically outperformed his contract where he's expected to make $16 million this year. Holding out from camp and not being there, he was getting fined $50,000 a day. You go to camp, that stops. He wants to make, presumably, what TJ Watt got, what Myles Garrett got, because his sack production is similar to those guys. His age is similar to those guys. He feels like, based on production, he's in that class, even if athletically he isn't. Maybe he has more pure pass rushing situations because of the talent of the offense, that sort of thing. I don't think anyone would say he's a better player than Myles Garrett, but he's got the argument to be a north of $30, $35 million per year pass rusher. No question about it. He is underpaid relative to his production. But so let's say the Bengals, in his mind, are lowballing him, and they're only offering him $33 million a year. Well, that's doubling his money from $16 million. And in a non-guaranteed sport, not many people are in a position to turn down $33 million per season. And those numbers are just hypothetical. But the point is that there is so much money now that it's going to be very difficult for guys to take a principled stand and feel tremendously slighted when we're talking about tens of millions of dollars a year to play football. And so I think ultimately this gets done. Post Le'Veon Bell, Chris Jones was a high profile one. Jonathan Taylor, missed a couple of games. But for the most part, guys hold in, guys make noise, guys leak things to the press, guys go on their podcasts. But ultimately, all of these deals get done. And in Cincinnati, they look at it like, hey, we've got an offense that is Super Bowl ready. Scored nearly 28 points per game last year, 27.8. Last 5 years, if you've got an offense that scores more than 27 points per game, on average, you win 12 games per year. Bengals won 9. And that was all because of their defense. So what did they do? They went out and hired Al Golden to be their defensive coordinator. They drafted Shamar Stewart. 3 of their first 4 draft picks were on the defensive side of the ball. And probably pay Trey Hendrickson. I'll be shocked if they don't pay Trey Hendrickson, because they have the money to pay Trey Hendrickson, and he's by far their best defensive player. So assuming Trey Hendrickson is back, and then they have this influx of draft talent, plus a new defensive coordinator bump, and the offense stays the same, the Bengals feel like we can win the AFC North, and in the playoffs, we've got Joe Burrow, and we can score 30 a game, and we can go out there and make a run. And that's where the leverage for a guy like Hendrickson helps, because he can be like, hey, you guys are trying to win a Super Bowl for Joe Burrow, right? I'm your best defensive player. Let's go get this thing done. And so when you see contract stories in May, June, July, players are supposed to be unhappy during negotiations. That's just kind of how it works at this point. So I was not surprised at all to see Trey Hendrickson report to camp. He says, or the reports are, that it's a good faith effort to jumpstart negotiations. Smart play. Don't get fined. Jumpstart your negotiations. Ultimately be a little disappointed by what they offer you. Double your salary at least, and go try to win 12 football games and be a double-digit sack guy once again. I want to talk now, though, about a guy who I wish was a Cowboy. Because as much hype as Travis Hunter is getting, I actually do not think it is nearly enough for what he is trying to do and what I believe he is about to accomplish. We know that Travis Hunter is special. But for some reason, people keep asking the same question about Travis Hunter. Can you play both sides? Is it possible to do this in the NFL? Doesn't matter what the Jaguars say. Doesn't matter how they drafted him. Doesn't matter how they're working him out at practice. Every time he speaks, he keeps being asked these questions, and here's the latest on how Travis Hunter responded to it.
I need to be able to progress everything fast, quick. If the offense change on defense, when I'm on the defensive side, if the offense change the strength, I got to know what I'm doing right away. And if we change the play, I got to know what I'm doing right away. So I like that we starting off slow, getting me adjusted, making sure I know where I need to be on one side of the ball each day, and then it all come together.
He says that the people that doubt that he can do this, the haters make him smile. I just want to be very clear and on the record, Travis. I do not doubt that you can do this. I am firmly in your camp. And I don't think it is as crazy as many people are making it out to be. And I understand that someone who looks like me, questioning the analysis of the former NFL players who say this is impossible, feels a little ridiculous. But I think a place that media, common people, and even ex-athletes are way behind on is how incredible the modern athlete is and how incredible sports science is. We've seen great athletes before, right? Bo Jackson, historically great athlete. Deion Sanders, historically great athlete. Best cornerback in the NFL, played receiver. His best year as a receiver, he has like 36 catches. It was the year he took off from baseball. We've seen guys try to play both ways before. But nowadays, sports science, sleep science, nutritionists, massage therapy, everything that these guys can do, it's different. It used to be, hey, you're a running back. Once you hit 27, you fall off the cliff. Now we've got Derrick Henry at 30 approaching 1,800-yard seasons. It's just a different era. These guys are better. LeBron is playing 22 years in the NBA. Tom Brady is winning MVPs and Super Bowl MVPs into his 40s. Aaron Rodgers is still playing. Athletes have just gotten better. So why can't Travis Hunter be a great defensive player and a great offensive player in the NFL when in college he was a great defensive player and great offensive player? He won the Biletnikoff Award and the Bednarik Award. He won the award for the best receiver. He won an award for the best defensive player in college. And this is one of my favorite stats because I feel like this is going to fall this year, this record. Most snaps played by a single player in a season. It's not a household name, but Malcolm Jenkins in 2014 and 2015 was over 1,350 snaps. He played every game as a corner, and then he also would play on the coverage units on special teams. So it was 1,357 snaps is the record for most snaps in a season by an NFL player. Travis Hunter played 1,483 snaps in 13 games last year. In 13 games. So if Travis Hunter shatters Malcolm Jenkins' record for most snaps in a season as a rookie, and at the rate that he did it in college, if he did it in the NFL, he would break it by like 400 snaps. But let's assume that they're going to slow play it a little bit. He can change the sport. He can change how we think about what a world-class athlete in football is able to do. And that, to me, is exciting because in baseball with Shohei Ohtani, it's blowing all of our minds, but you've got to do it from a young age. You got to keep doing it from a young age, and maybe we will see the next Shohei Ohtani in 10 or 15 years. If Travis Hunter proves that he can do this, we're going to see it much quicker in the NFL. Hey, you're an awesome athlete. Can you catch? Let's put you out there on both sides of the ball. And I think that the possibilities and the expectations of what Jacksonville is trying to do with this kid is so potentially game-changing and landscape-shifting that if he just wasn't in Jacksonville, we'd be talking about it way more. He's by far one of the most interesting stories of this upcoming NFL season, and I just want to be very clear. He will do it, and I expect him to do it.